Men det händer ju också någonting annat med den här situationen. Det kollektiva deltagandet blir allt mer viktigt. Vi skapar det här tillsammans. Och vi är väldigt glada att ha med oss idag Thomas Madsen-Mygdal. Thomas är grundare av den jätteomtalade konferensen Reboot, eller festivalen som han själv säger, i Danmark, som under 10 år varit en inspiration för väldigt många människor över hela världen. Och Reboot har utmärkt sig just genom ett stort kollektivt deltagande både i byggandet av programmet och sen under själva konferensen / festivalen. Och Thomas, vi har bett Thomas här att berätta lite grann om sina erfarenheter under 10 års byggande av Reboot. Vilka de viktigaste lärdomarna har varit för honom personligen i sitt yrkesliv och genom konferensbyggandet. Så välkommen hit Thomas. Och jag ska säga också att föredraget här kommer att vara på engelska eftersom många här idag kommer lite längre norrifrån i Sverige.
And you didn't trust my svenska,
välkommen hit Thomas.
Does this work? Yeah, it works. Okay, so I very seldomly speak about Reboot, so I'm scared like this is the second time ever, and I do a lot of public speaking, but never about something that's that close to my heart. Just the basic facts about Reboot, for you those that don't know about it. It is an event, it's a festival, it's been running in Copenhagen 11 times the last 12 years. I was very young when we started. It's an inquiry into what the internet is and what it means for us, and it's sort of also basically my personal journey somewhat on discovering all this. It's currently taking a break for various reasons, mostly personal to me, that I'm very involved with a lot of stuff that's exciting, but also that I was getting too tired and I'm not really sure what would be worthwhile to spend 2 days and 600 people's time on at this moment. It's sort of gray what I see is happening. So something that's basically a movement or an event or something like that is very difficult to describe. So I've picked up 3 very small stories that I've loved to share with you that perhaps would exemplify sort of the journey of Reboot and where we started out. The first story starts in 2001. This is post.com bubble. In year 2000, Reboot was this huge event for all the web people in Denmark. There were 2,400 people during the day and 4,000 people partying in the night. And it just became this huge thing. I'm still very proud of what was happening and the speakers, etc. But it was also sort of just whatever, this thing that sort of was out of control. So in year 2001, there was happening all this social stuff, and I was very sad about how we treated the potential of the internet during like 98, 99, year 2000, and really wanted to bring the idea across that like the internet was bigger than us, and we were really just very early in trying to understand it based on these .com bubble years where basically we were all doing the same just on a new platform called the internet, but it was all, we didn't really change our behaviors or our practice. So year in 2001, we had 1,500 people in this giant stage, but then I sort of went all in and just made it all about blocking. So we had like Evan Williams, Dave Weiner, etc., and everyone was sitting like, yeah, but I just want to know how to get a job. Post-trauma 2001 thing, I'm struggling to get by. Why wasn't there anything about how to make a living? And I'm like, come on, dude, that's something you can learn in other areas. So basically just going all in on covering and sort of changing the perspective of technology being something that we're using that's just a tool, and not seeing what we people and the people in this room are at the moment are doing, that it's not about IKT or technology, but it's about you're change makers, you're changing something due to your understanding of the tools and the networked age and new behaviors and new challenges, etc. So that was hugely transformational. We got like people complaining in the newspapers, what would happen if you all started blocking and tweeting? Like, remember, this is 9 years ago, so it was a pretty radical idea back then. then late in the afternoon, this very radical guy came up to me and he like pulled me and said, yeah, but if all that blocking stuff, why is this whole conference one way? You know, we have all these Americans on stage, and then all the Danes are sitting very politely listening. Oh, dear big name speaker. Oh, yeah, that's right. And he said, like, that's really shitty. And I'm like, what the fuck? He was like, you know, you're in event producing mode, and you're all thinking about all the small things. And this guy just approaches you and said, you know, this thing basically sucks. And I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of it. At the same time, I was on a very personal journey of a sort of self-organization and open space, and did a lot of weird things back then. So then in 2002, I totally shifted the thing around. So in 2002, there was basically one big open space. There was one speaker in the morning, one speaker at 8 p.m. in the night, and then everything else was self-organized. What today would be described as a bar camp or an on-conference or something like that. And half the people loved it, especially all the women. They said like, oh, it was the most amazing day ever. Or the rest of them said like, oh, why did I pay money just to come and have conversations with other people? And you know, I don't know whether it worked or not, but it was a pretty sort of, you could basically take that and a lot of the stuff that happened later with Reboot really came out of these two events and that sort of discovery. The other thing I just wanted to share briefly was sort of the importance of the invitation. So basically, and also of purpose, you could say. So basically, every year the challenge is, can I write an invitation that gives meaning to myself, that really, you know, yeah, just makes sense. And this year I couldn't. And that's the beauty of really of amateur events. That isn't, you know, there's no professional staff. We don't need to do the event. We can just, you know, have a year off, if that makes sense. So I always find it really interesting to, when do you really invite people? Even a lot of bar camps, etc., are, you know, there's so much stuff that's been decided before you open up and invite people in. So I basically just started looking at a lot of academic conferences and events where, you know, you always have the call for participation, the invitation to participate. So, you know, that's basically everything. That's the only thing that's been said is a theme, a big challenge, Renaissance, free, human, something like that. And then rest is sort of just an invitation to come on the journey and figure out. And obviously, it isn't everything is self-organized, but I just really, the invitation is so deeply undervalued, the sort of the real purposeful invitation, not the, oh, we're gonna go to this event and we're gonna show off, blah, 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 but really, why is it we're doing this? We can do a lot of stuff, but why are we really doing it? And when do we put out the invitation? At what level in our planning? Do we really do it very early? Do we do it more later? So invitations, yeah, a good invitation, that's always the best. The last thing, or the last story was I think in 2008. In 2007, for some weird reason, Reboot suddenly became this very international event. There was no marketing, it wasn't really planned. Basically, this website changed from Danish to English. And then, yeah, I guess, whatever, then a lot of international folks showed up, and at one stage it was down to about 15% Danes. There were more Swedes than Danes and more Germans than Danes, and we've been trying to keep the Danes away for a long time since. Last year it didn't really work. That might also be a reason for not doing it this year, to sort of try and keep the Danes more away again. But then this sort of big fat cat event organizer comes up to me and he says, the stage isn't big enough. You have no decoration. There should be separation of the rooms more so people can't go out. People shouldn't be walking between the talks. And you know, he was just giving this whole speak about how Reboot wasn't a real conference. And I was just sort of flabbergasted. Well, what is this? And then only realized sort of later, you know, but you know, everything is sort of by design, by choice. I have done big events, and you know, it's not really important at all, right? You know, it's much more, how do you really get it to a human scale? So I think a lot of what's been interesting the last couple of years with Reboot has really been about equality of you don't have a VIP room, you don't have a speaker's badge section, you just have participants. We're all participants, and we're all just trying to create this experience for each other. It really feels like it's our thing we're doing. Obviously, this guy also said, I could come back next year and I could be the facilitator of the event and really do very clever introductions and, but is it really important? Isn't facilitation just, being just a little enough for things to go along, but not really making it into a big thing in itself, or a big, sort of a big circus in itself? That obviously also deals with marketing. Back in like 10 years ago, Reboot had this huge marketing budget and you wanted to get the people in there. But then it became at one point like, you're just doing your thing, and then the people that want to do it will show up. So, the festival has been sold out the last, 3, 4, 5 years, and with zero kroner in marketing. And I really just, it's really when you're doing something that really gets the right people in the room with the right attitude, that sort of magic can start happening. And even at this point, I really don't understand what it is that's happening. But for some reason, people are just treating it with so much respect that, like, the biggest name speakers ever will try new material and will be so daring because they know it's their peers in there. It's not just it's this business crowd and I'm gonna do my talk. I do that shit myself now and then, and really sort of, it's just some corporate guys, and I'm gonna do my standard presentation, blah, 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 blah. But really, when it really feels like your peers, I have never dared to do a presentation in Reboot, and I'm not sure I would, because I know so many of these folks, and it would just be scaringly as hell to take it to the next level. So how do you really get that vibe of taking it to the next level? So really designing for human scale is for me very interesting, and also something I think we're pretty early in trying to understand. So that was 3 very quick stories. I don't have a lot of time here. What would the sort of overall lesson be? I think the overall lesson, for me at least with Reboot, has been sort of really how do you get yourself into the thing? Where you're basically spending your time on a creation, and how do you really sort of give it everything you got, and really, but at the same time also that's what makes it sort of scary to do. Reboot, doing something isn't really about, the factual stuff you need to do. We've been in the same venue the last 6 years. It's an amazing human scale venue, even though it's a sports hall. All the professional event guys hate that, but it's just a very beautiful venue. It's not about that, but it's really like you're just looking at this mountain of expectations that people have, that this is going to be a life-changing 2 days for them, and you're sitting there like, 6 months before, you're just sitting there, oh wow, how are we going to get all the people in there? How are we going to get the right people? Is it going to be the magic, or is it just be something else? Are we going to do the surprises, etc.? And I think that's really, really, when you're doing all the stuff about participation, usually is about them. We as organizations or individuals, we all have these ideas of what we want to do with them. But my small insight for you to think about would be that I think participation always starts with you. It really starts with your behavior, your attitude, what you really want to accomplish with it. And that for me is sort of where all these participation projects really normally go faulty, that they have this idea that we want the input of the people, but how does it really become our project instead of just participation as a small design element of a pretty traditional process? So really looking for the crowd, amplifying what's happening, and then magic starts to happen. So my extra surplus story would be that 2 years ago in the night we were thrown out of a nightclub, and people are starting to laugh here already. For various weird reasons we were thrown out, basically because they were too lousy at doing drinks, not quick enough for the crowd, and we started bringing beers into the bar and whatever. Not a long story. But then just magically out on the other side of the street party appears. A guy that's just preparing for Roskilde to come with a huge sound system on a kid's cart or whatever. And then just basically suddenly we have this 300-person street party, and we get stopped by the police and all kinds of interesting stuff. And then the next, so basically, you're looking at that small thing and then amplifying it. So next year, we spent all our time chasing down this guy that had moved to Berlin to get his sound system in there. And then we had this street party again, and it was the night Michael Jackson died, so it was like a very big thing, and we were, to all the good Michael Jackson beats late at night, and we got shut down by the police once again. It's always the success factor of a party organizer to get shut down by the police. But what I wanted sort of to describe with this little extra story was, how do you really look at what the things that are starting to happen in the ecosystem, and then you as a producer, an organizer, or a facilitator, whatever term you want to use, how do you really give it that little amplification that the magic can happen again? You can't get a party to happen by design, right? You can build a foundation for it, and then sometimes, even though it's planned. So year 2, obviously the party was planned to some extent, but magic can start to happen again. Participation is magic. That would be the last sentence. Thank you.